Okay, so we have some time. I'm surprised, but we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Bill. I'm Rob Kay with ARUP. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. How do you see the architectural community helping to leverage the other blocks down the life cycle of buildings from an architectural perspective?
What do you mean by the other blocks?
Well, as in maintenance, operation, deconstruction, the full life cycle.
Okay. Well, in the end, it's going to affect full life cycle. But the bottom line is that we got to be able to get there before we hit 2C. So, you know, it's really my whole focus is we need an upswell, grassroots movement. Policy is not going to do it. And the grassroots happens to be all of you in this case. You know, and once it starts, you know, there's been no discussion of this. And, you know, even it's in the IRA, but very few people even know that, or even by Clean California. But policy just takes too long. So, you know, I'm here for one reason only, and that is to spread the word that it's in our hands. You know, and it's not only this, but once this happens, it's got to spread to consumer action as well, because it's all products. You know, whether it's cars or, you know, even you take the charging stations for, you know, for electric cars. Well, what's discounted is the fact that there's embodied carbon in the, that's going to be, you know, to make the charging stations. That's been taken for granted, and we have to do that. I mean, so we need to do that. But the one thing that can be done now is design of new buildings and infrastructure, or make infrastructure less. You know, using concrete as an aesthetic element, it's very chic, but it's not helping. So that's where I'm coming from.
We have a question here.
Yeah, there's one.
Hi. You showed a few buildings that you mentioned not to perhaps replicate. Can you give an example of your favorite net zero carbon building?
I'm not going there. No, the bottom line is, look, you know, is it your fault? No. We were brought up in architecture school and in our own and your practices or whatever with sustainable design and green. Okay, and so that's, what did that mean? And I don't want to knock LEED. LEED is very important. It's educated an enormous number of people. But you can have a LEED Platinum building and have black smoke coming out of it, and that can be, you know, that's, you know, there's no negative points. So, you know, here we are. We got here. It's happening faster than anybody thought. And what can we do now? The only thing we can do now is cut embodied emissions, because it's all by choice. Okay, and so it's out there. We need to spread the word. I have to tell you that I have written numerous op-ed pieces to the New York Times, to LA, to Wall Street Journal. Nobody will pick this story up. It's got to get out there. So that's why we need to spread the word, and it'll have an immediate impact. The fact that COVID shutdown cut 2 billion tons, 2 gigatons in 1 year, is the proof of the pudding. The same thing happened in 2008 when the economy went down. If you look at the emissions from the United States in construction materials, way down because housing went down. But no, we have to build housing, but you have a choice how you build it.
I guess I'm wondering, and I appreciate the presentation and thinking about what natural materials are available locally. I mean, we're trying to do something super holistic here on planet Earth to regenerate and restore. And I think we're kind of stuck in this kind of insurance world of what's durable and resilient, those pieces. I guess going back to natural methods of building locally, craftsmanship, do you see that as the solution as well?
Oh, of course, it's all part of it. So, you know, we certainly overbuild, but we're design oriented, and that's what the industry is. And so, you know, but again, if you buy glue, you can't do better than wood. It's sequestering the carbon, okay? But why did you know, so cut the beams in half so you can buy them in the Northeast. You know, the fact, you know, normally never critique a building that I haven't seen myself. The only one was the one in Miami that I haven't been. But I just, a month ago, before I put it in here, went up to Grace Farms to see that beautiful building, which was fantastic with the glulam beams and construction. But I went there because I wanted to talk to them and see for myself. And there was absolutely no reason. There's no reason that you had to have a 95-foot span. The fact is they had so many things hanging from these spans for the lighting and everything else. Aesthetically, it wouldn't have made a difference. So they could have gone with shorter beams coming from the northeast. You know, but whatever. It's a long process. You know, I'm going to just want to discuss some of this at a lunch table. You know, part of the problem is it's a very long distance from design, conception, you know, and strategies and schematics to the process of having a spec writer write something that's going to go out for bidding. Okay, so you can design, well, yes, you can make structural design things, but when you get down to the end, you know, how do you control the process or get it down to the procurement level? And that is really where the problem is. But that's why this message needs to get out. It needs to get out in the press. It needs to get out in the AIA and the national. It's, you know, we can do it.
Bill, we have time for one more question.
Okay.
Excellent provocation. I really enjoy listening to your lecture. But I have a question. As an architect and researcher from the Global South, I research material extraction in Brazil, and I really enjoy when you said that we should focus on the A block decision making, but I was curious because I would say in countries from the Global South, policy would be something that I see as the only solution, or not even solution, like strategy to try to minimize impact. But it's interesting when you talk more about how it's in our hands as decision makers, but I see it's just, I feel like a contrast when you look at territories and globally where extraction is happening. So I kind of wonder if it's about the ethics of us as designers, or how exactly we control or do due diligence in the Global South and in countries where policy and corruption might be also an issue in extraction and industrial.
Okay, I mean, that's a good question.
Impacting construction. Thank you.
It's a good question, and the whole social justice question is a good one. And I address this in my book. We have to do all of these things, but the bottom line is, when we're focusing on carbon emissions, I'm not suggesting that there be social inequality, but the bottom line is, you know, your job is to design buildings, and we have to cut embodied carbon. You know, there's a section in my book talking about, you know, California trying to save water by encouraging replacement of toilets, and the embodied carbon to replace a toilet is just enormous. When a lot of toilets didn't need to be replaced, you could put a bottle of water in the tank to reduce the thing. You know, and so, you know, in the Global South, you know, certainly the whole extraction process is extremely important, and that's all part of this. But we got to get our heads together, and we got to do both, but they're separate animals here, at least in my mind. You know, in the A block, you know, is where it's at, you know, and the problem is that you look into Buy Clean California or IRA, and every one of these Buy Clean programs, every single one of them, they start out with talking about the whole life cycle. Well, you guys can't do the whole life cycle. You got enough trouble doing what you're doing. And why are you doing the whole life cycle when it's the front that we got to deal with? But then in the legislation, it doesn't require whole life cycle. They're just looking at actually not even the whole A block, not even installation. Okay, so none of it makes sense. And there are political issues here, and how do you get it done? So that's why I say it's up to us to do it and to get the word out. So I appreciate your question, but we have to do both. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill.